So I'm going to show you how to put in multiple cameras. So the first camera, this default camera, if I click it, you'll see it's this rectangle with this sort of a four-sided pyramid coming off. Essentially, you're looking that way, and the top of the camera is indicated with that triangle, and it's solid at the moment. On the numpad, if I push 0, I'm actually going into the camera and I can see through that camera view. Around the outside there, it's showing essentially what the camera sees. Changing the view of the camera is easiest with a little tick box. Push N, and you don't need to do this, but I'm going to put on my display key, so whatever I push, you'll see on the bottom left key here. So if I push N, you'll see I've pushed N. I like to change my camera view. If you look under view and tick this lock camera to view, dotted lines come around the outside. So if I start to pan, if I hold that shift middle mouse, I can move. If I scroll with my scroll wheel, I can zoom in, remembering to untick that so that I don't accidentally change my camera position. So that's one of the first things to do. And of course, I could render from there. I haven't got many lights in this, so if I click render, that's pretty fast. Let's change that to cycles render. And we render that animation. Looks pretty grey and flat. Right. So cancel that, come back out to 3D view. What I recommend for some models is to put in multiple cameras. Keep one exactly where you want it, and then you can muck about with lights and so on, and we're going to add in a new camera. So if I middle mouse and move, I'm going to create a second camera. So if I put my 3D cursor over here, that's where my new thing's going to spawn. Shift A to add, come down to camera, and so I have this camera and it's pointing in an odd direction. But what you'll notice, the main difference is the top triangle here, it's not solid. That means it's not the active camera. The first camera is active, the second camera is not. These cameras have names. The first camera, that's called camera. The second camera is .001. So you can rename those just like any other object. So that could be camera on a path. So I'm going to show you how to put that on a path. And if I take that, maybe move it up a little bit, back a little bit. And of course we can move them around this way, but I find it a little bit awkward, especially like that, rotate. So if I look through camera, push 0, I'm in the active camera. I'm going to change the camera, so the third button along here for scene, I've got two cameras, camera and camera on a path. It's not on a path yet, but we'll make it go there. Lock camera to view, and I'll get it looking at the box, and then we'll untick that. So now, when I zoom out, that has a dark filled in triangle at the top because that's the active camera. So if I push 0, I'm going to look through that camera. Right, let's put in a path and make that camera go on that path. So looking from the top, click, Shift A, and let's put in a curve, for example. There's a Bezier curve, scale it up, make it a bit bigger. We go to edit mode. These arrows, they show what direction the camera is going to go along. So we'll start here and then move along here. So I'm going to click that end and essentially highlight that point. I want the 3D cursor to go there. Spacebar for searching, snap cursor to active. That didn't work. What do you wrong there?
Just say move.
Cursor to selected. There we go. Cursor to selected. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that camera on path. Excellent. Just accidentally moved 3D cursor. Let's do that again. Shift A, curve, Bezier curve, scale, edit mode. Snap cursor to selected. Get that camera, and I want to snap snap selection to cursor. So let's put the camera on the end of that path. And that's quite an important step. It's not pointing in the right direction. I'm going to get the camera selected and the path selected, and I'm going to parent them. Control P for parent, and I'm going to follow path. So that camera is going to follow along the path. So if I go to play that, Alt A to play, you'll see the camera moves along that path. And I can Alt A, let's bring up timeline. Now I want that camera to point in the right direction. Look through. The best method sometimes is to get that constrained, camera constrained. So I'm going to go add object constraint, tracking clamp to the target. Not that one. I think I need to put in a Shift A, add an empty, plain axes. Put these axes over here, and I'll just rename those axes. AAA helps it to be easily identified. And if I come back to my camera, another here now, add object constraint, clamp to target. Track to, excuse me, target. I can use that AAA there. I could also use the cube, so I'll just use that AAA thing there, and then I need to tick right boxes minus Z and up being Y, and now that's pointing at the axis. So if I move that axis, you see the camera tracks around it. See what I'm doing there? Grabbing that. So if I now animate that and hit play, the camera moves along its path, continuously pointing at that axis. So if I push 0, in frame 100, come back to the beginning, I hit play, the camera moves, and you can see it tracking around. So I've got two cameras, one that I've animated, and if I want to change that path, I can grab that, move it over here, rotate it, maybe lift it up, extrude it, got extra bends and so on. So if I rewind my animation, I hit play, the camera goes along, following that path, continuing to look at the axis in the middle. And again, go through 0, and I can hit play, and I can watch my subject from any angle. So I can render from there, and if I was going to render that, come to render settings, should change that up to 100%. At the moment, start frame 1, end frame 100. You can muck about with speed and so on under here, time mapping, and change your output and render. I can always come back to my original camera, and that's just going to be for stills because it's not appropriate, I think, in its current setup to do a render because neither the object moves nor the camera. But I recommend putting in multiple cameras, and I think that's going to be helpful because some could be zoomed in, some could be tracking to move. Yeah, so I hope that helps.